Since that quote, we have not made it to a Final Four. Would you like to apologize to the Big Blue Nation?
I would. I'm sorry.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 11 of Not Top 25, the first episode of the off season. And we're very fortunate to be joined by friend of the show, Josh Hopkins from Cougar Town, Quantico, and most recently, winning contributor for the Singers. Josh, welcome back to the show. Great to have you.
Thank you. Yeah, as you know, I'm a big fan. I'm always like reposting you all in my stories. I love your content. A huge fan, so it's an honor to be here.
Appreciate it. So we got Austin, Texas. We also got Paducah, Kentucky today. Keaton, how we doing?
Doing well. I'm on my fourth cup of coffee. I came back here to my aunt and uncle's to get some peace and quiet. I think I might just push the truck back instead of driving it back.
Still
But yeah,
going.
see, Josh knows it.
I'm doing coffee and Coke.
There you go.
In my big Kentucky cup.
Guess it's one of those gloomy mornings all around. How's the weather in Austin? That's one of the things I do miss about Austin was the summertime year-round feel that it had.
Well, it is about 68 degrees and cloudy, and it's been cloudy for a week. It's been I'm ready for a little sunshine, but again, more clouds, no rain.
Nonetheless,
Yeah.
it's better than what we're going through.
Sounds
Fitting
like
it's
great content. Let's get into it.
Yeah, fitting it's raining in Kentucky considering the current state of the program, which we will talk about here in a second. But first, I want to give Josh an opportunity for our viewers that maybe not that don't know you. You've been very involved in the film industry and more importantly for this purpose, been involved in the sports field as well. You have one of the cooler stories that I can ever think of. Someone growing up in Kentucky, having a player that everyone has that one player they grew up with. A lot of people in my era say John Wall, Keaton being a Louisville guy, his is Peyton Siva. My dad and you, it was Rex Chapman. And you were, I don't know what to say lucky because you definitely earned it, but fortunate enough to have a podcast with him down the road. That's kind of a full circle moment. And really, was that your first touch into the sports industry or did you have any experience prior?
I think that, it's sort of media wise, that was, I've been on like the what's his name, the show,
Eisen.
the Rich Eisen show a couple times, and we got to talk sports. But yeah, as far as media or anything goes, yeah, for sure. And I loved it.
I know obviously Rex is very involved in the sports industry, but you guys had a chance to interview a ton of big name guests, including I remember the Scott Drew episode because I believe did Scott hit you with where'd you play again, Josh, or something along the lines of that?
I can't remember, but I'm sure and it probably made me feel really good, but I'd be like, Sayre High School, average 4 points. And
the cathedral of high school hoops. You also had the opportunity to interview the likes of Steph Curry, which is one of the biggest names in basketball history. What was that like?
that was so cool. Because Rex had relationships with these guys, and I was kind of like the fan. And I would ask the kind of average Joe questions that I want to know. They'd talk, stuff, analytics and stories, mostly stories they had from the past. And it was just great stuff. But first of all, with Steph, I was like, before we start this thing, who do you guys think the best rebounder is of all time? And they're like, I don't know, maybe Rodman, maybe, I said, who do you think is the best, defender? Maybe this, that. I'm like, who's the best shooter? There's only one. Everybody says there's only one. What's that like to be the best shooter of all time? And then I'd ask questions to Steph, and we had JJ Redick on, we had Steve Kerr, we had these great shooters. And I asked all of them, at what point in your childhood were you like, Mom, how come I've never lost a game of darts? How come I am better at everything? How come I don't miss? What's it like to have that kind of elite hand-eye coordination from an early age? And they all had great stories, like that. And they would be like, yeah, there was kind of that moment. And when we had Shaq on, I was like, they out-talk stuff. I was like, okay, has anybody ever tried to fight you in a bar? And then
I hope not.
yeah, he said, yeah, people do. I said, what do you do?
That's insane.
He had this interesting answer. He was like, I have to freeze time. And I'm like, what? And he's like, because you want to but he was like, I just have to remember everything around and just stop and be like zen about it because people be assholes about it. And he's just, I don't know, they want to have a story with Shaq. you know? But people don't realize that there's a reason that there are weight divisions, you know?
Boxing, yeah.
But so, yeah, and I asked him if he's into MMA. It was like if the baddest guys ever from MMA, you know, all of them, there was 5, and they walked into a bar and wanted to fight you. Which NBA guys of your era would you have with you? And that was he was like Xavier McDaniel, Charles Oakley. I can't remember them all, but it
That's a
was
good
a
one.
lot of fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
Shaquille O'Neal might be the last celebrity or athlete I would ever want to get in a bar fight with.
I mean, can you imagine?
That's crazy. Some people are bold, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Josh, that's funny you mentioned you felt like a fan doing that. That's kind of what we wanted to start this podcast in is I feel like we want to appeal to the fans more and create content for the average fans. And playing into that, I feel like you're the same boat as me. You know, with doing the music stuff in your city of Austin and then throughout my childhood doing stuff with Houston, every time I'd bump into, one of these musicians, it would just be routine. And then I would go back to Lexington and cross paths with like Tyler Hero and Keldon Johnson, and I couldn't spit out a word. I'd be so starstruck. I feel like you've been around, Leo DiCaprio and James Marsden, but I feel like if you bump into, Jamal Mashburn, I feel like you're the same boat as me. You just can't really, that's where you get starstruck. Is that a fair thing to
That's
say?
exactly right. I mean, yeah, and I've always, of course, if you see a celebrity like that's huge, you just run into, I don't know, a Halle Berry, which I had, you're like, that's Halle Berry. But no, it doesn't impress me, I can act. That doesn't impress me. But if I turn around and even run into Denzel Aberdeen, I'm like, where's Denzel? He's a 19-year-old kid or whatever. And but yeah, that's just the way I am. The sports was the first thing I I didn't have actors' pictures all over my wall growing up. You know, I had Michael Jordan, and I had Mashburn, who was on the podcast, by the way. We had so many great people, but that's what I grew up idolizing, these athletes. And so, yeah, that's what gets me starstruck. Like the biggest starstruck I've ever been with the artist that's probably influenced me the most is Eddie Murphy. I just loved the guy growing up, and he was just, you guys don't remember the phenomenon that he was and how his concert, CDs and shows and his, not even, his early movies. But like I saw him at Starbucks in LA, and he and his girlfriend were coming through, and I opened the door and held it for me, said, "Thank you." I was like, "You're welcome, Eddie Murphy." And he said, you know, but I wasn't starstruck, even though it was him. I was like, "That is so cool." If that was Kyle Macy walking out, I'm like, "Oh, I've held the door for you."
Out of all the athletes that you and Rex have interviewed, do you have a favorite or like a certain interview that was your favorite, just as far as the conversations or just the type of person that they were?
Gosh, man, everybody was, Rex and I would do a little addendum after we got off with them, and we were always like, "Well, there's another person that makes me feel like a piece of shit human being." Because they're all elite and they're just so impressive. Everything, how they present themselves, the way they speak and their work ethic and their view on life and the intelligence, because you have to get to ascend to their heights. You don't do it just because you're an athletic freak. You got to work super hard and you've got to be smart. You've got to be intelligent. And we interviewed, like, I wish I had remembered like the list, but like I remember interviewing Katie Lang. She's a country singer. And she said something like, she was like, we were talking about, I don't know, religion or ethics or whatever. And she was like, "Look, I don't care what you believe in, just whatever it is that gets you, whatever your boat is, whatever gets you to the other side." And I was like, I don't care if you're Jewish or Christian or if you're atheist or if you believe so much in the Boy Scouts. I don't care what it is, but whatever you put all yourself into that gets you, you can't do it if your feet are in two boats. And it just stuck with me. I was like, so many people had things like that I took with me. And I wish I was more prepared for that question. Cause sometimes I'll be like watching TV and I'll be like, cause we did like over 100 episodes and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, friend of the show." Like I'll forget,
Right.
So it's pretty cool. I wish next time I'm on, I'll have some good ones.
Okay, cool. And then obviously you're a Hollywood actor, so my next question for you, and I think you're a little bit more prepared for this one, but if you were to portray any coach, any collegiate coach, who would it be and why? Just who sticks out to you the most and why?
Portray any collegiate coach of all time, obviously, not one
Yes,
now.
sir. Right.
Way too well. He was never a collegiate coach, but I'd have been a good Pat Riley in my day,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
can
Yeah.
still play it now because I'm actually younger than him. Like I could be Pat Riley, the GM, But because then I'm trying to think about like who would be my type. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You know what I always thought was funny? I feel like you could probably play Leitner. If Leitner had you have the hair, you have the height, you could probably play Leitner. But
I mean, not quite 6'10", but yeah, only if it was a fictional story about his death.
You
I
set him
mean,
up for
it
that
would
one,
be
Trey.
great with the best. I'd need a little prosthetics probably. The most challenging, the best would be Jimmy V. Valvano.
mm,
I mean, what an enigmatic personality and an underdog story. And then the ending, which was a tragedy, yet somehow he made it uplifting. I mean, that would be an incredible story. I'm sure if it hasn't been, that will be a movie someday. Unfortunately, I'm already too old to play it.
well, I know you've dabbled in the becoming a writer a little bit, and I feel like there's a good sports movie for every single, league or, that even college football has Rudy. College basketball, the only one I can think of is Glory Road, but it makes Kentuckians just look like the most racist, like pieces of shit imaginable. I don't know if you've seen that movie yet.
I can't
So
do it. I can't do it, you know, because I can't do it. But I do understand that scripts and art has to heighten everything to make it, so you understand why they take that like, oh, they were super racist, like, and there's a reality to it. But the story there is the all black team beats the all white team, and they didn't even allow black players in at that time. It's the time period. And so I understand when you take artistic liberties to make the story better, but because of that, I can't watch it because I know it's not that, pun not intended, black and white. And I just don't want to watch it.
yeah, but pointing into that, Keaton and I have been talking for a while. There needs to be a Rick Pitino movie. If you think of
Yes.
his career arc, that is Hollywood. And I
Yeah.
think you would be a great person behind this. Can we pitch you a Rick Pitino movie? Who do you think could
Absolutely.
play a young Pitino, old Pitino?
I don't know.
Cillian Murphy.
He could play anything,
Right, right, right.
It'd be like, that'd be if Rick Pitino was dying of cancer. He's too thin. He's like,
Yeah.
every time I look at him, like, that
All
man
right.
needs too much.
Yeah.
But you still need the ending. You're waiting to see if Rick wins one more and quits, and that maybe, he beats Louisville for the championship, or, like, it's not over. That script's still being written.
That's
I feel
true.
like him coming back to Rupp Arena, that Big Blue Madness, I feel like would be a great closing scene. But an actor that just hit me, I don't know if this may be too flattering for Rick, but Chalamet playing Kentucky Pitino, is that something you could see? I could see him pulling off the Italian.
Yeah, yeah. He's from New York, and he loves basketball. He loves hoop, and particularly the Knicks. And Rick was coach at the Knicks. That would be that'd be awesome.
Trying to think, there's some other ones that I guess could be more of documentaries. These may not be the most Hollywood, but it's the $8 million celibacy, the AJ DeBonta BYU experience. Is that?
I like it. I like it. You got any more? Keep them coming.
It's another one. It's Five Nights at Freddy's. It's Five Nights at Bendarty Hall, the Louisville basketball experience.
Yeah,
I think I
yeah,
know a few of our players that already went through that. They might have
yeah,
already written that story.
It's
yeah.
that's one of those Netflix untold documentaries, I think.
Yes, it is. That's
Mhm.
absolutely, seriously, it is. And those guys, enough time has passed. They'll talk about it. It's like it was a different era, different time. No one's going to get in trouble from it. That's actually a great idea.
Yeah, those are the two that hit. I feel like just something regarding the transfer portal in 20 years down the road is going to be really, really fun to watch. But speaking of the transfer portal, let's talk about it. I think, Josh and I are the Kentucky guys here. Keaton, the Louisville guy. We are on totally opposite spectrums currently of vibes in the portal and field. Keaton, the big bucks are being thrown around there in the 502. I'm sure you've got to be a little bit happy with that. How are
Yeah,
you
I'm
feeling as a
happy.
Card fan?
I'm happy. We just got Adrian Woolley back. He announced that this morning. So we've got, I think, our starting five as of next season. However, I think we've spent probably 2/3 of our budget on the five guys we have. So I'm interested to see
Good,
how they fit. What?
good. That's what you should do. You should
Yeah.
go get some other guys that that fill roles and that can just some shooters and a guy that could. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do.
Right. And I have faith in Pat that he will get the job done and get the guys that he needs and wants in the program. So I'm more than satisfied with what we've done thus far. I know Miami's had a really great portal as well. They picked up Santos Sorrell from Georgia, who's a huge underrated big. And then they also got a Caden Lewis. I know he was a guy who was on UK's radar as well. So I'm satisfied with the way the portal has gone thus far as a Louisville fan. The ACC as a whole has done a really good job in the portal thus far.
I'd
I
like
want
to
to hear
see
you.
who Miami puts with those guys because they are elite at their position, but they're both cannot shoot. Neither
That's
one of
true.
them shoot.
That's
I mean,
true.
Santos is about 58% from the free throw line.
Right.
And Aiden, as good as he is, and he is really good, he's not a very good shooter. They're gonna need
Well,
to put something in it because that offense could struggle.
I think with a coach like Jay Lucas, who's a young guy, he's motivated, to prove himself and his team. I think him coaching under Cal and Shire, he's learned from two of the best guys in the sport at this point. And I think he's a great young coach and he's got a lot of potential to put this team together and develop those guys to go into next season.
Well, I could see him being, the next hire at a blue blood if he continues his ascent. He's always been super respected, in basketball underground terms because his father as well, and he's just a super smart kid, and he's got some charisma. And like, if Self were to stay on a couple years, I could see him in the talks if he has another 2 great years at Miami for a big job.
I don't see them slowing down anytime soon. I think he's got the ball rolling down there in Miami, and I think they're going to have another great year and be a higher ranked seed than they were even this year. I mean, year one, he won 27 games at Miami, which, I mean, Larry Nigga's a great coach, but historically, it's not a great program, so hats
And he
off to him
swooped
and what
in
he's
and
done.
took Somto from Rick in
Hmm.
Arkansas. He was headed that way, and he swooped in and took him. So that's
Right.
impressive. We all know Rick. I mean, not Rick. Cal. We all know that Cal is the best recruiter of all time, and he went in there and took him from Arkansas.
Yeah, they've lost quite a few guys as well. That's something I'm kind of interested in. I mean, Calipari's going to put together a good young team, but I mean, losing DJ Wagner, which I know he hasn't really lived up to his full potential, but also Carter Knox, like those guys contributed a lot of minutes and points on this team last year. So I'm just kind of interested to see where they go. I know they picked up a few guys. They got a guard from Georgia, and they got
Yeah.
somebody else I can't remember off the top of my head, but I mean, I don't really know as much about what they've done in the portal, but Cal's going to put together a good team regardless.
You
Yeah,
always
but
know that
losing
Calipari's going to
those
have
guys,
talent.
even if it, you know, DJ, who is, obviously underperformed his ranking, which that always happens when your name is Wagner, or if you're two twins, or if there's something sexy about it, you're ranked higher. But he's underperformed his initial. But to keep guys, one thing we've noticed is retention is a big deal. If you're going to go far, and those guys, while not maybe superstars, just to have them having played for 3 years in that same offense or what would make a big difference. So that is two losses, I think, that are underrated losses for them.
I agree.
Counterpoint, retention, sure, but the team that just won the national title, their best two players were transfer guys.
Right.
And Arizona brought in these freshmen to make them, Duke's been recycling freshmen. I think retention, sure, is great, but looking at a team like Kentucky, who you would not have been as excited, or I guess the roster still being filled out, excited, very far away from getting excited. But I know you would not have been excited if we would have retained Jasper Diabate. The excitement of bringing new guys in when a season didn't go as planned, I think, is more important than retaining guys and developing. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Well,
Considering what we've seen in the Final Four.
it was time to clean house, obviously. We couldn't give these guys what we gave them last year. They're not going to get that anywhere. The market's a little different this year. But, like a guy like, Jasper was just in over his head, and I think he can be a good player. I really do think he's a good basketball player. But if he gained 25 pounds, he's just a kid out there. He just can't move. But like a guy like Mo Diabate is your favorite player on a team that has really good basketball players, because then what he does is everything else. But when he's on a team like we were last year that couldn't shoot and didn't have good ball handlers or not even good basketball players, like we didn't have very many good passers, distributors, guys that really could play the game and see it in 3 levels. And so then he's sort of relied to score and stuff. I mean, but if we got a great team this year and Diabate was back, he'd be awesome. But he was trapped last year because he just didn't have good basketball players around him. So he couldn't be what he want. Like Rodman, if you had Rodman and you had 4 other Rodmans, that would be the worst team in the history of basketball. But if you put but Rodman was elite. I'm not saying he's Rodman, but he's that type of player. He needs good players around him, and then he's invaluable. But he was stuck.
To, I guess, wrap up what we're talking about with the portal, what would you guys say is the perfect mix? Because we've seen teams go out and fully build their team around the portal or fully build their team around freshmen. What would you say the perfect mix is if you're trying to build a championship team from scratch, from veterans, star talent, spreading out the money? Keaton, I'll start with you. What would you say your ideal roster would be?
I think bringing in some experienced guys who are going to be your established starters and guys who are going to score the ball for you, but also having a couple guys that have retained on your roster that are kind of, I guess, building the culture with the coach and also just the camaraderie of the locker room and stuff. That way everybody's bought in, because I feel like that's the biggest problem that I see nowadays is just these kids get all this money and they're not really as concerned with like the product that they put out just because they're already satisfied financially. So like, I feel like as far as having the camaraderie and like everybody bought in on your team is so much harder than it used to be. But to sum it up, I would just say having a couple guys who have been there and know the program, know how coach wants the program to be ran, and then bringing in some established older guys who are going to score and be your money makers essentially.
Hop, we had some older guys brought in last year and it didn't work out. Like from what I've seen in our group chat, you a little bit miss some of the star-studded talent flowing through Lexington. You miss seeing the Burger Boys. Do you want that back, or you still think building around veterans is the right strategy?
It's got to be a mix, because the veterans are great and you can really get some good talent out of the portal, but there's a reason they're in the portal and not in the NBA. And you need some NBA guys. You need some guys that are going to go to the league and play. And that was our problem with Kentucky this year. We had a lot of good players, but we didn't have a dude, and we needed a couple dudes. I mean, don't get me wrong, Owe was a really good college basketball player, and he was tough and a dude at times. He could just go it was amazing. He used his body and go get an incredible tough bucket, but he's never going to play a minute in NBA. He's never going to play a meaningful minute for sure. And I'm sorry to say that, but he's not. His shot is incredibly ugly, and I thought he'd try and fix it, but he's not going to. We don't have one guy that's going to play meaningful minutes in the NBA on that team last year. I mean, maybe Moreno, or now he says Marino is his name now. He says it's
Maybe
his mom's.
Quaintance, if we're counting that.
We're
Uh,
not, and that was stupid to spend however much money on a guy with an ACL injury that he didn't have his surgery till March. I was saying that last year. I was like, I mean, people were like, he should be back by September. I was like, Adrian Peterson wasn't back that fast, and he was the fastest anyone's ever seen.
right.
So that was foolish. But no, you need guys. Retention is nice, but you need to spend your money on 2 guys that are going to play in the NBA. And the problem is their Yaxel was one that's going to be I don't know how many others are going to be big time NBA players besides the freshmen. Now, I know they didn't have a freshman, but they went out and got that guy, got Yaxel. So he was the dude. we need dudes. And usually you get the top 5 freshmen. Now, this year was an anomaly because there were.
Absolutely.
But
15.
unfortunately, this year is not only a bad high school class, it's a bad portal class. It's worse than the portals we've had the last 2 years as far as top tier talent. And so I don't know what you do if you're Pope right now, because if you get the best players that are been coming in and and all of them, I think your team still kind of is less than average.
Hop, it's funny you said that, and this is kind of playing into what I want to talk about. On October 27th of 2025, you appeared on a episode of Kentucky Sports Radio following the Purdue exhibition game where you said, and I quote, "I believe in Mark Pope. He gets his guys. It may not be always the most talented guys, but he gets guys to build his system." Do you still believe in Mark Pope like you did on October 20th?
You got to understand, first of all, my audience. Okay. There's a political aspect of this, Trey. I'm not a commentator. I'm a guest on these shows. And if I was to go on KSR and be like, I mean, Pope's goofy. He's goofy. I mean, I'd get murdered. Hollywood elitist. So yeah, but I did believe in him then. I thought he hodgepodged a team together his first year and did great despite even the injuries. We made the Sweet 16 and were fun to watch. And then he put together a incompatible roster last year, spending a lot of money with no dudes, no NBA guys. You have to have that. And I thought, well, we probably learned that. And now we have no dudes. I mean, we have, I know it's early, but I don't know how many dudes are out there in the portal. Do you?
Well, it kind of goes
Is
back to
Donnie
your point.
Freeman? Go ahead, Keaton.
Well, no, I was just going to say it goes back to your point as far as like the top tier talent in the transfer portal. I feel like there's a dramatic drop off, say, from the top 5 ranking guys as opposed to the other 15 in the top 20.
Yeah.
As far as like what's left out there, I really don't know. I think Rob Wright was a huge whiff on y'all's behalf. I think it would have been a completely different story if he had committed to Kentucky. But to answer your question, I don't really think there's that many guys in the portal as far as the rankings go that are still, can go out there and be your legitimate moneymakers. However, on the contrary, I mean, there's guys who are ranked in the portal who are like 80th, the average, close to 15 points for a team this year and, contributed legitimately. So the portal rankings don't really tell the whole truth, in my opinion.
The portal rankings you're right about are the worst rankings. I think people that rank the portal know that they're terrible. No one has any idea. But I do think, the top 5, 6, 7, you got to go get one to spend for them. And maybe you will get lucky. We got super lucky with Ortega. I mean, he was 60th, 70th, I don't know, maybe not even that. And he turned out to be our best player the last 2 years. A stud, a real stud. But I think when you get Final Four teams, you've got to have NBA talent. And I don't know how much of that is out there.
Yeah, there's no Yaxel Lindenborg's grown on trees. And it's funny to also see a guy like PJ Haggerty, who was the number 1 player in the portal a year ago, now is 15 to 20 range. So there's also that aspect of you are investing in a dude who is leaving a program and not going to the NBA, like you said. So there's also that
also,
factor.
It's like, I understand this. We haven't even been mentioned with the top 10 guys, really. Like, it's not the guys we had in. I mean, right now we're waiting. We really need Donnie Freeman. We really need him. And, there's a lot of good talk around it, but he hasn't committed. It's worrisome because apparently, it was a great visit, but I don't know. Maybe they're just hashing out. But if we get him, that's a great start. But I mean, he's ranked 17. What is 19? He's ranked 19 and the 5th best power forward in the portal. And that's our big get. I just don't understand, and he's got a lot of potential. He was a McDonald's All-American, but I'm just saying now, if, and no one thinks this will happen, you get a Tyron Stokes, everything changes.
That was going to be my, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You've got an NBA guy there, and people say, yeah, but he's a head case or whatever. I don't care. We forfeited the ability to say, yeah, we don't want a head case. We'll move on because we ain't got anybody. So you got to take that and manage that. But he is a dude.
Right.
And you get him and you have Zoom and Donnie Freeman and a couple of, all right, you're in the mix, but nobody really thinks we're going to get him.
I think that's just an objective statement because at the end of the day, I don't know what his priorities are as far as the recruiting, priorities and stuff like that. But I mean, if he went to UK, he'd be the guy. He obviously has a problem with Adidas brand. And Kansas is the only other school that's legitimately in the mix for him. What are y'all's crystal ball intuitions as far as landing him? Because personally, I think y'all will get him ultimately.
Well, I
Who,
can speak for
Stokes?
Trey here right now. Keaton, we think that you are really, really stupid. We think that you are an idiot and that you should
Okay.
probably sign off now because that's how we feel. But also, we're Kentucky fans that we don't like to, we're both the same way. And like, we'd be like, there's no way, rather than, and have the surprise rather than be like, I think we got it and be let down the way we usually are. We both, our mental psyches attack it that way. But no, you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. The only way we would get him is if Nike were to say, look, our offer's off the table if you go to that school. And tea leaf reading, I've heard people say he would at this point say, okay, and go to a different Nike school than Kentucky. I've read, which would be a murder kill. Now, maybe that's all just internet, stuff, but I've read some people that I've trusted a little on the internet where I've seen what they've said come to fruition, but that would be brutal. But if somehow he were to come to Kentucky, if I were Mark Pope, I'd back the truck up. I mean, I'd do whatever I could. That's our only shot of being top 10 team. At this point, what I know, I'm an actor.
Well, based off everything you've said, though, I'm just curious to pick y'all's brains on it just because he's a Kentucky kid. He's a Nike athlete. Like, what is the big problem with him and wearing the blue and being part of the Big Blue Nation at this point? Is it Mark Pope? Is it the fan base? Like, is it a collective of everything? Like, what do y'all think it is?
I don't think it's the fan base. I don't think home is that's kind of been overblown because he was in Kentucky. Yeah, he's been gone a long time. I don't think he's like, I'm going home. I think that's just kind of been a fan, a hope.
That's fair.
But I don't know. The thing that's disappointing and weird to me about Kentucky recruiting is in the past, we've had, what's the kid that went to Carolina? Caleb Wilson?
Caleb Wilson.
Yes.
Okay. We had him. Everybody's like 100% crystal balls, and came, gone. And the Christian guy from this year.
Oh, man. Yes. He was.
Same way. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, we got him. Gone. Tyron, we were on, commitment watch with him 9 months ago. And so everybody talks about, our deal with what is it?
JMI.
JMI. And I don't know. They're like, is it Pope? Is it JMI? I don't know, but it seems like Pope and his team have gotten guys to the table where it was happening and then it didn't. So that makes me think it's something about the JMI deal. I know, but it's still, you get him there and then Pope, just a terrible recruiter, but I doubt it's that. I think there's something with the JMI deal, and I know nothing, that turns kids off. And apparently it's the JMI says, okay, but you can't get money from any of these brands that we don't own. But I think there's something about that is really hurting recruiting. And I thought after KSR did that piece about it, it would change because everyone would realize how important this is. But apparently it hasn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you say that is your biggest intel for recruiting is KSR? Because I know you are probably one of the more like interactive with them, celebrities, and Drew Franklin and Matt pretty well. Is that? I know you're also friends with Jeff Goodman. Who would you say is your biggest recruiting intel? And you don't have to expose any scoop they've given you.
Yeah, no, they don't, they don't give me a lot of scoop. They know, and I don't ask for it a lot. Occasionally I'll be like, what are you hearing? And sometimes I'll get a nugget or whatever from any of them, but they're pretty closed lips because they have their inside people and they don't want to betray them, just like I would, but it's like I'm not telling the truth about all the stuff they tell me now. Just kidding. But yeah, they're pretty tight-lipped. They don't share a lot, but I can accrue bits at times from a lot of different little sources and have probably a general idea of some things that maybe the average fan, which I am an average fan, but I might have a tiny bit more access to some information, but not a lot.
Yeah. Well, last thing I want to say about Kentucky is that you, again, are one of the more, we keep saying this is one of the overlying themes throughout the episode, is one of the more interactive people in Hollywood with their fandom with Kentucky. And through that, you've had little Easter eggs in your art with Kentucky, doing the John Wall dance in Cougar Town and then having your Kentucky Cup in Quantico. And through that, you've had a few ESPN interviews where I am now coining the Josh Hopkins curse. After these interviews, something bad would happen, whether it be a hot take or just bad mojo. In
ESPN interviews?
correct. In 2015, when you were asked about your Kentucky Cup on Quantico, you were the villain in the show and relating that to Kentucky basketball. You said, quote, well, I'm the bad guy. Do I really want to? But we're the bad guys of college basketball. We're the Empire. We're the Darth Vader, most people's eyes. So I was like, this will work. Since that quote, we've not made it to a Final Four. Would you like to apologize to the Big Blue Nation?
I would. I'm sorry. I do oftentimes think it's my fault about a lot of things. My bad. But it was true then.
This one's worse. This one is way worse. In February of 2010, you were asked in regards to your John Wall dance on Cougar Town in an interview with ESPN. You said, and I
ESPN?
quote,
I don't remember interviews with ESPN.
oh, this is on there. This is on the World Wide Web. Type in Josh Hopkins, Kentucky, and it will pop up. I think we're going to win our 8th national championship, he said. We got a straight freshman, we have a new coach, and everybody's excited again. This is so much fun. We should be done shooting the show when they make the Final Four, and they will, and I should be able to get to Indianapolis. We lost in the Elite Eight. Would you like to apologize to the Big Blue Nation for that one?
No. I mean, should have won it. Hold on. We had a straight freshman. What were the other ones, gay? Like, I don't understand.
I'm just reading what you said. I dare you to say that to DeMarcus Cousins' face.
Yeah. No, that was so much fun. That was one of the most fun years. I always say, it's the hardest championship to win because it's just one and out. If it were, 3 series, once you got to that, we would have won that year. We would definitely won in 15. We had the best team several years that we lost. Kansas, their year, that last time they snuck one. I always call it, stealing one. And we've only stolen one, and that's 98. There were years we were the best team and didn't win. All the other years we won, we were the best team. And that's why, and those years, by the way, I hate the most because no win is fun. It's just a relief. Like, because you are just know you're better, but could lose. One guy gets hot, and we've seen that a lot, and you're out. So I'd love to see us sneak a couple because we haven't, like other programs have. I want to sneak a couple, and then we're due that.
Is that why a lot of people are hesitant in saying UConn's a blue blood? Because their entire national title trophy case are snuck titles. Is that fair, Keaton?
I think the only one that probably wasn't snuck was the one with Rip Hamilton and all those guys, which I think was the first one in '99. But
Well,
the
the one
rest
they
of
got
them,
a couple years ago, they were the best team. But everyone else is just
Right.
they were a high seed.
Well, they definitely snuck too. They put us out our Randall year. One year was both times they just had one guard go off. That happens in these runs where one guy goes next level, and you look. It happened with Florida. Last title. You have one guy that is just has the run of his life and of the tournament. There, oftentimes that is, and they had 2 years where they did that and won a title and put us out both times with these guards. They're undeniable blue blood. If you look, they've done this in the last 20 years or less, 17 years or something. They've won these titles, and they're right. They've been to 3 of the last 4, 3 of the last 4
National
Correct.
title games, yeah.
correct.
Yeah, 2 of them. And that's the other thing. We've been to all these Final Fours, and they've been to Final Four like 8 times and won 6. It's
Right.
like there is an aspect of sneaking that they've done that we haven't gotten, but they're undeniably powerhouse now.
The craziest stat I think about UConn is that Ohio State, believe it or not, has been to more Final Fours than UConn has, which is hard to wrap your head around.
That
Yeah,
is.
they've been to
But
10.
I didn't
speaking
know
of
that.
surprises, to close things out here, and since we have an award-winning actor and writer with us, we thought we'd throw out some awards ourselves to throw it out, and we'll have this on our socials. Each of us are going to throw out a nomination regarding last season to have the fans vote, and these will coin the not top awards for the 2026 season. So, gentlemen, are you ready to throw out some nominations?
Let's do it.
All right. The first one we have is the most surprising team of 2026. Josh, I'll start with you.
Kentucky.
They may be nominated for multiple of these because
It's not the surprise that you thought or you wanted, but it was a surprise.
it was not a pleasant surprise. Keaton, what about you?
I'm going to go with Arizona just because in the preseason, they're ranked outside the top 10. They had all those freshmen come in, but none of them were getting the recognition like the Boozers, Michael Brown, so on and so forth. And I mean, I don't really think that they were, quote unquote, a national championship contender until maybe midway through the season. So I think nobody really saw them coming out the way they did preseason wise. So I'm choosing Arizona.
I like that. But if one thing is true, if you look back at the preseason top 25, they had it pretty good. They had it really good. I know it was Kentucky. We were like, why aren't we higher? And we'll show them. And we were worse than the people that didn't put us that high. But they had all those teams besides Arizona, which is a great call, but still had them pretty high, But you look back, they were pretty spot on.
I agree.
Well, I can't believe neither of y'all said Nebraska. I mean, I feel like that is a team that came out of the blue, so that'll be my nomination. The next one, and I think, Josh, you may have the same nominee here, the most disappointing team of 2026.
I mean, it's almost too cliche. Like if I could, I can't help it. Yeah, it's.
Do you want me to take the rap for this one? I can nominate Kentucky. You could choose someone else, or if you want to take one on the chin here. That seems to be what our fans love, is when we kind of poke fun at the Cats. I don't know why that is our most popular realm on social media, but it is.
People love to see the pain. They love it. I get it. I don't know who was particularly disappointing last year. Maybe, I don't know. I'll come back to it. What about you, Keaton?
I've got one, and I knew both of y'all were going to say Kentucky, so I just tried to go down a different route here. I'm going with Creighton because they were also ranked in the preseason top 25.
Gross.
They ended up finishing, I think, bottom 3 in the Big Ten, and they practically made Greg McDermott retire. They were so bad this year. So I'm going to go with Creighton.
Yeah, that's a fair one. Mine's actually our alma mater, Josh, the Auburn Tigers. I thought this was a very disappointing year from them, coming off of a Final Four. I know the new coach and all that, but still ending up in the NIT with Todd Pettiford and Keyshawn Hall, I think is a disappointing season, especially for how far along Auburn's come as a program. So, and I think that's a good thing that for Auburn, if you put them in this category after having the year that they had, because that proves that the standard's gone up there on the plane. So I will nominate Auburn as my most disappointing team, and I'll let you take one here with the Kentucky one, Josh, because I think you may be winning that award.
UCLA had a kind of bad year compared to what they were supposed to, and I believe someone said Kansas State at one point.
Oh, yes, Jerome Tang. That's a good one. That is a good one.
Yeah. But it's overwhelmingly it's a joke.
It always is.
Man, well, the next one, and Kentucky might be nominated here again, is what was your game of the year, Keaton? I know you had a
Louisville wasn't the overly they weren't. They were a little disappointing.
Yeah, we forget that
were.
part.
They were. Well, okay, honestly, if we wouldn't have won our round of 64 game, I was going to pick us, but I'm just glad we got our first tournament win in over a decade. So that's a win in my book.
We didn't think we were going to make it with the amount of money we spent on our roster, and we needed a 3/4 court shot or half court shot to make it to the second round and get murdered. I mean, we are by far, but I'm just pointing out that after you said it always is, I didn't like that. So Louisville wasn't so great.
A rough year in the Bluegrass, but there was some.
Louisville's going to be great next year, though. They got them coming.
We'll see. I'm not getting my hopes up yet.
Yeah, I understand that. That's what we never do.
Mm-hmm.
The point of that next one, would you say Kentucky Santa Clara would be your game of the year nominee, Josh? Because I know, Keaton, you're going with Arkansas, Bama, correct?
I am.
I mean, yeah, that was, but also the Marino shot.
For
That
the
was,
game of the year?
Against
mean,
For
LSU,
all of
right?
college basketball?
a Kentucky. I thought you meant Kentucky game of the year.
Oh, no, this is all of college basketball. This is
Yeah, when the stakes count like that, most of the games in the Final Four weren't that great. There's some blowouts. Even the final game, while UConn came back, it never felt truly like it was in danger. But you can't make Kentucky, Santa Clara, or or whatever best game of the year because there were no stakes to it. There were for me, and I jumped up and down, and I'm 55, and I could have torn a meniscus or something, and thank God I didn't. But that was an incredible game from anyone who watched it. Might have been the most entertaining.
gotcha. So is that going to be your nominee?
Sure.
Very Kentucky theme over here for Hop. I'm going to go with, I think, again, I may steal this, the UConn Duke game was the game of the year for me.
Oh, that's it. That's absolutely the game of the year for sure. My bad. Yes.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Just for the sake of the nominees, I'm going to go with Arkansas, Alabama, that, regular season game in the middle of February. You got 2 top 10 projected draft picks, both dropping over 35 points, double overtime thriller. It was just an all-time classic between those 2 squads. So I'm going with
That
that
was
one.
one of the best regular season games I've ever seen. A-Cup and Phylon, that was two
That
juggernauts
was,
going at it.
and
That was
that's
an
a
all-timer.
great call because I forgot. I mean, the UConn Duke. I mean that shot we're gonna see like the Leitner shot forever because that's like always gonna be there. And the CBS opens the show.
Right.
That was incredible.
Yeah, in all reality, it doesn't get much better than that. All the stakes, 2 story programs, 2 great coaches. I mean, yeah, I agree.
Gotcha. We got a couple more left. This one, I feel like there's going to be slim pickings for the nominees, but great year for them. The Italian of the year. There's godfathers of the sport, I think, have really come back to life. Really great PR change for 2 that are coming to mind. Keaton, would you like to nominate your boy?
I'm going to go with my boy, Ricky P. You can't go wrong with Ricky P. This really comes down to 3 guys, Hurley, Patino, and Calipari. I got to go with Ricky P.
Is Hurley Italian?
I mean, yeah, he's Italian.
Hey, Josh, are you going to nominate Calipari or you can't do it?
He's just Southern and he thinks anybody from the North is Italian.
Yeah, I don't think Hurley's Italian. That's not an Italian name.
I think it's kind of, I thought they were a little Irish, but just from up north, but I don't know. I don't know I can't know a lot of Italians come to mind. I'd say Italian of the year was Sylvester Stallone. He really had some good news come out.
I love it. All right, so I'll nominate John and Brad Calipari because I was assuming you were going to go with Cal, and Brad was my next one. So we'll do John and Brad there. Give both the Caliparis a nomination. And
that was earned. He really earned it.
It's earned, not given. Last 2, and then we'll wrap things up. And this is a not proud of it, man enough to say it moment. What was your worst take of the year? Keaton, you said you had a pretty bad one.
Yeah, I'll start us off. Not proud of it, man enough to say it. I believe it was our 3rd or 4th episode of the podcast. We were doing preseason predictions, and I had Ole Miss winning the SEC. I'm going to stand by that just because, look, they had such a terrible year this year. However, they had the same exact team practically from their Sweet 16 run the year before. But all in all, now that all the dust is settled, I have to go with that. Ole Miss winning the SEC was by far my worst take.
Hop?
On that same episode of KSR where they were, saying they mentioned that we might have to do, what was the year that we had to do the rotating squads in?
2015?
Yeah, where we had to do the platoons. They were talking about that, and I was like, sure, yeah, we got a lot of talent, but that was all, they all played in NBA. We don't have one guy on here I said that then, which was a great take, but I said, but maybe Jasper. He might be, NBA starter or something at some point. And that seems to be, he's got time, but it seems to be a really bad take.
Sure. That's like my Nick Richards lottery pick take that I still can't live down. But last one, and this is, I don't know why this one made me laugh, but the Bruce Pearl Award. Who is most likely to retire in September and run for Senate? Who it comes to mind? I think this plays into what coach you think could be a great politician as well.
Right. Well, my first thought was Stephen Pearl might be the guy.
All right.
I'm I want to go with Mick Cronin just because of the sound bites he'd give up there on the helm.
Where do you think Mick Cronin? Can you
He's such a
imagine
passionate bro. He's such a passionate guy. His lobbies, oh my gosh, he would have everybody in there ready to die for what he believes in.
Well, Josh lived in California for a while. Do you think that Mick Cronin running in the Republican ticket is gonna win a spot in DC? Or I don't know what ticket he'd be running in. I don't know. Mick gives me that.
I'm gonna go ahead and
vibe.
say not a snowball's chance in hell.
Yeah, he is so unlikable. It's
He
incredible.
is.
I mean, and they had a bad year, and the time he threw his own player out.
That was
Remember
ridiculous.
that was all about him. What about the kid and what he did? He was like, look, and threw the kid out. That was.
And then his post. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're right. And then the post game, go ahead.
No,
He's
I
talking
mean
about the
just
student section.
yeah. Just what he said to that kid after the game was even worse. That student reporter, like, I mean, he's a kid. Give him a chance and just answer his question. He just went off on him.
Yeah, that guy is a clown.
So, Keaton, your nominee to run for office is a guy who can't handle hard-hitting journalist questions and a guy that isn't liked by his own people. That's who you want running for office.
Like every politician out there.
Sounds like the more divisive you can be, the better chance you have. So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So are you going to go with Stephen Pearl, or you said, I remember you said Self something?
I mean, Self in the retirement aspect, and people like Self. He's a likable guy, toupee and all. But I think, is that true? The toupee thing with Self?
I believe it. I mean, he's got
that.
Oh, you haven't heard that?
I've heard the Bill Self hairpiece rumors. I believe it. I mean, what is he, 65? Got a great head of hair. Like,
it looks
He
good.
could have gone to Turkey. Who knows?
Yeah, well, he wouldn't have time, but he looks great. But people really like him. He's seemed mild-mannered, and could absolutely retire.
Yeah, probably win governor for that state. I'm sure he's
Right.
like Saban is, just bigger than the governor in his state. My nominee is Doug Gottlieb. I feel like he's very opinionated, can speak his mind, and he coaches a terrible team and probably wants to get out of that. So Doug Gottlieb will be my nominee to run for office, and I don't know where, Wisconsin. But that'll do it here for episode 11. Josh, feels like to close things out. You got any hot takes to close us out here with, or did you get it all out?
I'd say, I think it's not a very hot take, and I don't mean to be an alarmist, but Kentucky's in big trouble. I just don't understand how people, like everyone we're like talking to, that people are saying, well, they having him come in there. It's like some 118th guy from Furley Dickinson and some guy from Colgate, and I'm like, where's the best guy we're talking to? Is hoping to get a commitment from number 19. Now, like I said, it's, you can't really tell from the rankings. No one knows with those. But you need a dude. There's no dudes. We're not talking to a dude. I think it's not very hot, but I can't sleep. What are we doing? I'm getting old, man. And I start thinking about I don't have a lot of shots left. And to live through a lame duck season next year, I don't have time, where we just start. And what am I going to do all winter? I was
The
like,
book club.
Yeah, I said that to our chain. Let's have maybe a BBN book club. That's what we'll all do. We'll all have it. Maybe you guys could start the BBN book club next year.
I need to be reading more, so I'd be all about it. Keaton, I don't think you'll be starting any book clubs this winter based on what y'all have had so far. Any hot takes to close us out?
I'll say I think Michigan will go back to back, and I think UK will be the 2027 NIT champions.
Wow. All right. That's a good one to close on. Whatever I say won't be hotter than that. But thank you guys for listening. As always, Josh, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. We're going to have some more content out there. Give us a follow on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter coming soon. I just got to unfollow a lot of people from that old account and be ready to roll. But from me here in Nashville, Josh in Austin, Keaton in Paducah, once again, thank you guys for watching, and deuces.